We're back. We're live with another week of the Unstoppable Women's League presented by Popsugar. My name is Blue Panda. Joining me on the mic is Cthulhu. And look, we have to be honest. We had to get her in KT. She was just too good on the mic. She was threatening our jobs. No, she's traveling. She's in transit. But we're representing her on broadcast as well. We can't leave her out of this. She'll be back, of course, in the future alongside us, Cthulhu. But coming into this week, there's some big matches to be played.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, plenty of really big matches that could really mean quite a lot of volatility to finally kind of even out on the leaderboard, and we'll be deciding quite a number of things really for just general standings.
And of course, let's have a look at the format, figure out how this whole thing works here in the Unstoppable Women's League. Just give us those reminders on what we're playing for, where we're playing for, and how things work here in Season 8. Of course, 8 teams. Group stage is double round robin. Played through 8 best ones each week with teams versing each other twice. We take the top 4, throw them into the playoffs, of course. And then from there, the winners of those 2 matches will go on to the grand finals. The losers will play off in 3rd and 4th place, Cthulhu. And already we've had a bit of a shake-up. Some of the teams that we expected to show up have, and others that we weren't expecting to be here are really putting in work.
Yeah, look, we're definitely starting to find some really big performers in Women's League, and genuinely, teams like Big Brain Esports started to pull up some really big, performances for themselves. Definitely a team that has been, showing a whole lot of promise. Fury and Team Bliss has had quite an interesting run. Whereas teams like Triarity, like Radical Rebels, been unfortunately a little bit struggling on a number of occasions. So definitely curious how will this week really change things around, and just keen to get into it all.
Let's get into it. Like you said, let's jump into the standings and see where our 8 teams currently reside on that leaderboard. At the moment, after, a number of matches have been played coming into week 3. So we are 4 matches deep per team. Team Bliss currently rock on top of the table now. No bias. Obviously, KT, we know that she is a part of that team. So as you know, look, it's a caster thing. We can't back each other. We're actual mortal enemies on broadcast. So we'll have to see can Bliss actually play the game tonight or not. But I mean, they've had a great season so far. So is Big Brain Esports, and I think it's going to come down to the crux of it, which is that head-to-head matchup, Cthulhu.
Absolutely, yeah. The head-to-head matchup could really do a whole lot of plays. I mean, we've seen the similar kind of turnout in even OCL as well, where we've just recently managed to finally lock out one of the teams to really take that first spot. So here tonight, this might just be the case, given that between Team Bliss and BBE, it is still only a 3-round differential. So plenty of upset factors here to happen. Same goes between Viking Army and Radical Rebels. The battle for the 3rd place is rather big, and same could be said between Fury and Benchwarmers.
Yeah, most definitely, of course. And having a look at our matches for tonight, 8 to be played, and potential for some big rising up the leaderboard to be had as well. It's a pretty interesting schedule here in week 3. Team Bliss versus Big Brain. I was hyping it up. I was alluding to it. We get it. First match on the broadcast, of course, Cthulhu. Team Bliss versus Big Brain Esports. And then match 2 of the evening. Big Brain are going to hang around. We'll see them taking on Radical Rebels after. But are there any other matches in this play day that you're looking at and getting excited by?
Honestly, I'm quite curious to see how will Viking Army really perform here. Same goes for Fury against Inferno Gaming, because a whole lot of those matches will really finally decide as to how will some of those tiebreakers will really work out, and how will obviously the leaderboard will get shaken up, because having almost 4 different tiebreakers will certainly prove to be rather an interesting storyline. And just in general, tonight is going to be the night of us finally breaking up all those tiebreakers, so we'll have a whole lot more of a definitive answer about the standings for some of those teams.
Yeah, well, let's get on into match 1, of course. Team Bliss taking on Big Brain Esports, the 2 top of the table titans in the Unstoppable Women's League, Cthulhu. And look, we've seen how this plays out previously. We've seen different iterations of these teams, of course, go toe-to-toe. Team Bliss at the moment looking rather unstoppable. And Aussie Princess at the helm with Sav, Sawyer, And Time for Pie as well has been a rather interesting standout. And then Cass, obviously, rounding out this 5-player team with their subs, beans, and bots. I mean, this is an incredibly stacked roster.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a really stacked roster, by far one of the, well, arguably one of the best ones in the women's league. But honestly, yeah, they have that sort of the possibility of finding themselves that sort of run in a similar way how Elevate back in the first few seasons of women's league had a three-peat run back to back to back. So for Team Bliss, certainly this is a roster that is very much gifted within the league and. Certainly has all the power really needed to just pretty much power through a majority of their matchups.
And of course, their opponents, it's in the name, Big Brain Esports. And they are big brain players indeed. They've got some insane knowledge, some insane mechanical skill. Whether or not it's enough to go toe-to-toe with Bliss, we will have to find out. It's Butt-Theed, Cheesebender, Chloe, and Yoshi there as well. And Serenity. I mean, Butt-Theed, let's talk about Butt-Theed. Obviously, that's how you pronounce the name. Everyone knows. But, I mean, how many times have we made that call in a clutch situation and it's Butt-Theed to come out on top?
Look, quite a lot of times. But at the same time, we've seen all the highs and all the lows of Butt-Theed. But the roster of BBE as well, it's still... it's one of those that... whilst probably not as star-studded as one would see from Team Bliss, it's still a phenomenally, powerful one. Having as well Repel and Burnaby as well as subs, plus, having quite a lot of experience just throughout the years of competitive Siege. Big Brain Esports definitely have some big brains behind the scenes, and certainly just about all the needed power to keep on pushing through for the top places.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see this matchup. Of course, we're very lucky to be having it. Cthulhu, let's go to the map bans as well to see where this battle will be taking place. And maybe, just maybe, calling out the Women's League teams for playing boring maps as work because we're going to theme park. Look, no shade, but we do enjoy a bit. We enjoy some freshness here in the Women's League. Clubhouse, Villa, Oregon. It gets a bit old week after week, but you see the theme park come through. You see the sky. I mean, it's those exciting dynamic maps where teams can bring out those strategies that are a little bit left of field that they actually pull out the wins. Yeah,
look, I'm definitely quite keen to see a theme park, given that it's one of those maps that I think it's actually one of the least ones played out throughout the whole of the competitive pool within OCE. So it's good to see that it's back into the swing of things. It's one of those maps that is still yet to kind of fully unravel itself in terms of just strategical prowess for it. So for teams like Bliss, for teams like BBE, this is going to be the perfect, almost I guess, testing ground really for to push themselves to the absolute maximum.
Well, it's time to get your cotton candy and go and head up the hot dog stand, Cthulhu. We're going. It's churro time. It's theme park. Unfortunately, none of the vendors are hanging around, so you're just going to have to wait until after to get yourself some food and snacks. But we've got some big plays to be had here. Theme park allows for some very dynamic approaches to the game, and I'm expecting at least 1 or 2 runouts.
Certainly be a good idea with how general kind of initial pacing does happen. With the bans to come around, I'm kind of actually expecting something across the lines of maybe like a Maverick, maybe even a Jackal actually as well.
Yeah, look, I want to see, like you said, that enable the roam on the defense, but to be able to go play for the expanse that is theme park. But no, we're going a different direction. In fact, Team Bliss bans out the Monty. Chloe, look, a little bit upset by that. A little bit upsetty spaghetti here in theme park, but it does mean that there is less to worry about playing those shields.
Yeah, well, that's the big shield player. Plus, with Monty having the ability to bring in the secondary hard breach charges as well, he's no longer. You don't have that sort of self-sufficient breach and entry operator that could be able to, shield the rest of the team from some of the initial heat after the breach is done. Flores to follow up as well does sort of mean that things might get a little bit dicier when you need to get rid of some of the utility pieces remotely. But Thatcher has been left on board. You have still Twitch that is ready to roll. Mira to be banned out, somewhat expected. She does quite make things a whole lot more problematic when it does come to the actual push to the side. So, look, fair enough. The last one, assuming it's going to be something across the lines of a Cade or a Valkyrie, would make sense here as well. And, well, there we go.
Valkyrie taken out, Azami let through, obviously. There has to be a big talking point on the defense with those keeper barricades. That needs to be of some concern, because we've seen just how strong she can hold a position. I think Drone Armory, not necessarily as strong, given that Thatcher is in play, but if you play those angles correctly, and we've seen, Cthulhu, you remember that specific play that was made on Attic with the keeper barricades. Unfortunately, you weren't casting that week. You weren't feeling too well, but you were watching. Sitting behind a keeper barricade on the construction supplies in Attic on Oregon. If you don't check your corners, those keeper barricades can result in, well, absolute chaos.
Oh yeah, the keeper barricades definitely have that sort of ability to just sow absolute chaos. And I mean, having the ability at your own kind of easy disposal to be able to reshape a number of positions on the side to be in your favor and to make it even more kind of turtle-like. Look, it is a very powerful ability to do so. Now, with the way how Bliss are looking to actually structure their own even picks, introducing a Rooney as well as Azami, definitely will make things a whole lot more interesting, because not only you can obviously in tandem with somebody like Jaeger deny the projectiles, you also basically force the attackers, if they want to go through that specific doorway or through that specific breach in the wall, they have to drain some sort of a throwable or some sort of a projectile to be able to go through it without taking any sort of damage.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued to see what Bliss have prepped coming into this map, of course. There is, I mean, so many possibilities in the defense. It's such a horizontally expansive map. I mean, it's not like you go to Oregon or Cafe or Clubhouse where you got 3 levels to play. You got the 2, but there's just so much width to Theme Park. And wow, look at that already. We start to see some of the keeper barricade innovations. Being able to contest that hatch drop without being shot back, that's big.
Yeah, the rather disgusting foot sight line will definitely make things a whole lot more problematic to really deal with, but definitely quite keen to see how that will really work out. Yoshi, meanwhile, does have a nice long angle. The LMG does go rather hard, but only gets it down onto Soy. And Soy is actually able to crawl away from that very sideline, so possibilities of getting a pick up will be very much possible. And, well, there she goes up. So, whilst the damage has been dealt, it's still going to be a 5v5. And, BBE will have to just put a little bit more effort.
I mean, it's that early chip work that you see teams putting in. When paired with a thinker, it just means that there is that, you know, significant health disparity going to the later stages of a round. So with Serenity on the thinker, Big Brain have a natural advantage to play around. Cass wants to hold fast towards top Dragon Stairs and Cash. Time for Pi. I mean, this is some significant damage starting the round off.
Once the push comes to shove, Bliss might have a whole lot of problems dealing with Big Brain Esports push. But in saying that, already quite a fair few of the flanks starting to happen. Soy and Time for Pi looking to make a play around the ground floor. Chloe is looking to try to open up the possibility. You can actually absolutely halt, you know, the work of the Surya gates if you do chuck the shield at that spot, but that is a relatively little known fact, funnily enough, even though apparently it was already shown on a few occasions. The run out is coming around, but there it is. Oh no!
Oh,
not enough! Not enough ammo! Yoshi just gets the punish, so he basically scot free.
The nerf on the P10 Roni, hitting others harder, unfortunately. Right now, what a kill from Sav to answer back. Unfortunately, Chloe, no more Talon shields to be in play. Unfortunately, that nano boost coming too little too late, but Feed gets involved, takes down Cass. Time for Pi, spots that player on the stairs, can't confirm the kill, but Sav is holding the line with the help of Ozzy. Down to the 2 versus 2, Cthulhu, 10 seconds here in play, but Feed running desperately to get the defuse. A big kill, Time for Pi equalizes. And the plant will be going down, but Theed only has 2 seconds. Type of Pie has to go in and contest. If she allows a gunfight to come through, she will more than likely be dead. But Theed, again, clutches it up.
Jeez Louise. That was a little bit too close for the comfort there for Big Brain Esports, but they managed to make it work. Those early trades certainly have paid the dividends, and yeah, look, quite unfortunate for Soy there. Losing out on that run out was rather tragic even. But initiation room in office is going to be a retry, funnily enough, from Team Bliss, fully understanding that, you know, a few mistakes were made and maybe some reallocation of Azami utility could be done as well to just prevent certain of those opportunities to be taken rather clearly. But I gotta say, Big Brain Esports off with a rather solid start.
Indeed.
Protect your
And that's a soul-crushing round for Bliss, of course. So close to being able to clutch it up, but I mean, you just look at Sav and her investment in the round. 2 kills before she finally fell, and 2 very big kills at that. And I mean, that was such a close round to be played. It literally came down to fraction of a second decisions.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I think if you played that 100 times over, it would still come out both ways. It'd be a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
10 seconds left.
Yeah, definitely. Look, those split-second decisions definitely are occasionally quite difficult to take, so can't really blame Time for Pie for initially just holding off on the push. But regardless of that, a retry is a retry. First round is always kind of goes a little bit 50-50, given that we always talk about, or rather I mention occasionally, the first round jitters. Understandably so here. That could be partially the case, but I gotta say, Sav was pretty clinical on quite a number of those swings, so definitely good to see that, you know, the alibi player of Team Bliss is keeping it all as stable as one can possibly do in certain situation.
Yeah, definitely eyes on Sav once again in this round. If she can find the kills that she did in the last, definitely gives Team Bliss the shot that they need. But right now, with the nano boost in play, I think it's a lot of attention onto Yoshi, because that repel that she was holding almost the entirety of that last round was so impactful.
Well, once again, do you see Yoshi in a very similar position where she was able to find a solid frag, but this time it's a reinforced wall, so a little bit more difficult to get any sort of traction off the back of that, so rather prompt response off the back of that, deciding to rotate and assist possibly Buttheed and Serenity in the push. Oh my, yeah, that is a very stacked push, as a matter of fact.
Well, they are going to clear out the mute gemmer. Trying to get that information. It's that shield being held once again. I mean, if Sav can line up a kill or two, they are playing so concentrated. Hell, if they can even relocate Time for Pie down for below, look to make a Nitro play. Unfortunately, she will fall before being able to commit the Nitro cell. So it's a phenomenal start from Big Brain so far.
Absolutely. Big Brain has been pretty solid on the way how they push the objectives, on the way how they coordinate majority of their pushes, let's just call it that, given that a few of the swings were rather unfortunate. But look, yeah, gotta commend the decisiveness to just go for just a one-way push, as it seems like this might just end up being a bit of almost a rush play, frag grenade out, a rather quick, clean, coordinated clear out of a singular position, although actually that opens up a possibility for an entry directly onto at least, well, close to the bunks, but still quite a fair bit of walk to be done in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, again, it's a timing issue that could play out for Big Brain. They haven't given themselves a lot of room to work with. Yes, they've got the EMPs in play, but you got to remember, that is not the site that they're trying to attack. Chloe, top arcade, Aussie, does she have the audio cues? Not yet. And right now, that push has to come in one way or another. It looks like it might even just be through those choke points. The rotate, no, steps out at the worst time, allows Yoshi to kill, but it's answered back by Cass. Big shots galore. Soy and Cass find 2 more, Sav for a 3rd. And with 1 second remaining, Yoshi has no time. Team Bliss, they play the objective, the clock, and Big Brain, unfortunately, didn't give themselves enough room to move.
Yeah, look, a little bit of a stall out there, unfortunately for Big Brain Esports. given that the original kind of play was rather well telegraphed, let's call it that, and the idea certainly was the right one, unfortunately just maybe a little bit too much time spent on a singular position. With that said, though, 1-1 scoreline is not yet tragic for either one of the rosters, so plenty of opportunities to, progress the scoreline in either one of the sides. But for Big Brain Esports, definitely a bit of a change-up needs to happen. Maybe that sort of Jackal pick will be the one to be.
Well, we'll have to see.
Locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Second sight in play, of course. Bunk Daycare. Bliss, I'm going to change things up once again. How Big Brain adjust, of course, is going to be the thing to focus on. They struggled. Timing was the biggest issue in that last round, so this time they need some more comfort in being able to get into the building.
Good to see that Bliss can comfortably keep on swapping the operators between each other around. Not a single person is kind of set to just that one sort of role. It's a very much of a fluent setup for Team Bliss, which definitely does allow quite a fair bit of, a little bit of a variation in the way how they play. Obviously offers opportunities for each one of the players to shine in their own department, so definitely a worthwhile kind of idea to play around. Interestingly enough, though, it does certainly look like Bliss are not particularly looking to do a whole lot of, expansion or a whole lot of roam play bar one or two players. That would basically, at least naturally almost, counter the sheer pick off Jackal. Only if they'll get a little bit too close to the position, maybe this is where we'll be finding some sort of a turnaround.
Looks like one of those X-Kairos unfortunately bounced. And, oh no, it must have caught on the window. Okay, because I saw something detonate near Yoshi. Or rather, it was shot out. So they've got the long angle onto the bunk door. Bliss seemed to have aimed for a relocate, a pretty significant one at that. And you could see just blue outlines finding better positions to be holding.
Yeah. So far, a bit of a calm before the storm. And this time Yoshi very much aware that the Team Bliss can sometimes pull off those rather peculiar decisions to play and pull some of the runouts. Definitely very much wary about that sort of play. Butt feed, catching and a couple of shots from the MK14 EDR off time for buy. Not going to be feeling a little bit, or a whole lot healthy, but it's a steady progress. With half a round still to go, Big Brain Esports might just be able to find the right pacing for themselves.
Yeah. Again, though, how many times have we seen teams stalled out? Right now, though, they need to stay. This is where they need to start clearing out that utility. If they don't clear out the utility here, they're not going to have the time to be able to go for this push, especially with the setup defensively they have. Look at Bliss. Line drawn, they've got their backs towards Arcade. They know that there's next to no presence behind them, so they don't have to worry about those angles. This is huge.
Absolutely. Already quite a lot of information as well. The default camera not really taken out and will be punishing Serenity rather thoroughly as well. Might be the big punisher for the rest of the Big Brain Esports as well if they won't be too careful. Time for Pi claims the second one already from the very same position as well. Very wide array of opportunities to really play around, but she's meanwhile unhinged by all of the horrors that was happening with to the rest of her team. Decides to keep on pushing on. Yoshi to rendezvous with her, but she will be certainly notifying the defense about the presence and just decides to full send it.
Yeah, so the Toxic Canister loses 2/3 of her health, but she is on the site. Chloe falls. Somehow the answer's back, but it's an absolute wipe. Team Bliss locked down the third round. And once again, Big Brain looked like they may have given themselves the time they needed, but it was not the case.
Yeah, just trying to find that sort of that middle ground is definitely a difficult time, especially on a map like Theme Park. Doesn't really allow a lot of room for error either, given the sheer amount of rooms that you have to take, given that not every kind of position can promise that sort of that needed foothold as much as you wanted. Whilst obviously, taking control of something like a cache or cafe on the opposite side of the map will provide at least some sort of an entry point. A little bit of a kind of a dual push would certainly make things a little bit more workable, I reckon, for Big Brain Esports expansion to not just having just that one-sided push where you just basically just allow your opponents to literally take the other half of the map, basically use it there, use that as their kind of expanded sort of area for play, but instead having that sort of, I mean, 2 and 3 sort of player groups to push from multiple sides should allow a little bit more of that even ground for both teams to have a solid amount of gunfights. But again, that's maybe not part of the strat book, and maybe the idea is just to kind of play for, I guess, the numbers overmatch. But at least so far, it didn't particularly work out as intended.
Yeah, indeed. Right now, though, they set themselves up for a 3-1 scoreline potentially, with Team Bliss taking the lead at the moment. But whether or not that remains is up to Big Brain and how they approach this. They need to accelerate this. They need to be able to get into the building earlier, set up for the push onto the site earlier, and not... I mean, yes, you got to pay respect that they are clearing things out and playing the info game, but the fact that it's taking so long is the problem.
Yeah, having that sort of inability to have that sort of stable ability to, you know, find the right pattern to keep on running is definitely going to be a bit of a problem. But looking at the general kind of push, at the general swing of things, we might be seeing once again a much more accelerated push. Serenity now switching over to Ash should be able to make things a little bit more fun, a little bit more interesting when in the fragging department. Should be good to play as well. And look, Yoshi on the push should be able to allow herself that early play, but Cass already reading into that play far too well. Good reaction as well to be able to tag up with the Finker.
Yeah, right now, this positioning, and it's what I was talking about. Yes, it's accelerated, but it's being able to maintain that pace and get into those positions, because you can get in early, that's great, but do we see teams tend to stall out a little bit in the midway of the round, which is what we're hitting now, and then it comes down to the final 30 seconds, they make the push, and all of a sudden they just don't have the time to think and react that they need. And well, speaking of that, we hear one Nitro cell already committed. That's Soy looking for more. That's time for Pies, and unfortunately, that's 2 big bits of utility now gone.
Yeah, certainly utility department will be rather hurting, but inside of Bliss, you look at everyone's position, very much of an expanded play, but definitely relying on winning their ones. Cass specifically has the capabilities of just finding that sort of an upset flank to happen, and Typhon Pie already extinguishing her C4, or maybe just having it out on a pre-place. Won't really be able to do much, as Yoshi does pick up the better of Aussie. So that's the Jaeger gone, which now for Bliss means that maybe the default back to the site might be the call.
But it looks like we're not seeing any conventional setup on these standard positions that you're approaching in an attack to Armory Throne. There's no pressure from Workshop. There's no pressure in Barrels. Cass being able to play this position should be able to cut off any sort of attempt to push through that Dragon Door going into the final 20. So Big Brain might have played themselves in this execute. We can hear utility starting to go through. It looks like it's going to be an Armory push straight up, and that's a dangerous position, especially when you can see tucked into the corner. It's a big kill for Time for Pie. I know there's another one coming from Split. Time for Pie holding fast. Cass brings it down to the 2 versus 2.
Ooh.
Chloe pushes in. It's Soy to hold fast. She's got diffuser control. Soy absolutely steals the round, Cthulhu. That is insane. With a call for the pause, we're going to throw it to a quick break. When we get back, we'll jump into it.
At Zowie.
Coming back into it, Cthulhu, we jump on into the map. Theme Park, once again, between Bliss and Big Brain Esports. A 3-1 lead, and Bliss are just playing defense to a T.
Absolutely, yeah. Team Bliss, after a bit of a hiccup in round number 1, managed to get a rather firm grip on the situation, and managing to basically just keep on outclassing their opponents on a number of their occasions. Although, again, half of those engagements did kind of happen courtesy of Big Brain Esports themselves. You know, the time management was not particularly going in their favor. But going into round number 5, one would hope that, you know, they will be able to get back into the swing of things, which would be rather preferable given the, you know, the weight that is being carried throughout this whole matchup, because whoever does win it out basically nearly locks themselves in for that top 1 position. Although I say that, there's still 4 more playdays to happen after tonight.
Yeah, right now. Obviously, respect being paid to the potential of a jump out, however effective that jump out may or may not have been. On the drones, looking for info.
Attackers dropped the diffuser.
Trying to catch out Bliss unawares, but unfortunately for Big Brain, Bliss well and truly seem to be quite aware and on the window prep. That could be big for Pi.
Definitely, Pi could do a whole lot of work. We've seen her pop off on a number of occasions. But right now it's down to Aussie to try to make a play. Has the possibility the window will have to be punched a couple times, but the run out could be very much fatal, as the Claymore is very much being set there. But if she jumps out from the barrels, this is where the dub could be proclaimed.
Most definitely. She's just slowing it down, playing it smart. Bliss know that Big Brain have a timing issue, as obviously the scoreline does represent. So they can just play smart, play tucked in. They don't have to take unnecessary gunfights.
Absolutely. I suppose one will have to see if that is actually going to be the case. If we will see BB to finally get back into the swing of things. Although, prospects are certainly there for Cheesebender and Co to absolutely just form 10.
Indeed. But again, final minute, and this utility still has yet to be cleared right now. I mean, you've got 3 EMPs in play. Why not burn one of them to clear the gate so they can start contesting into the site itself? Time for Pi find some chip damage onto the toes. Sav, I mean, she doesn't even need to give up the shield yet. It's still in play, and they can't clear the utility around it.
Trying to keep up with the general swing of things certainly is rather problematic with Chloe falling. Time for Pi is just doing absolute work, and as it stands, trying to find yet another frag. She is clinical with that one as well. Cheese to fall. All down to Serenity and Yoshi to try to make anything work really there, but at the moment, very much of a 50-50 kind of opportunity there, really, in just general swing of things, and not many angles to really play around, given that Chloe just got eliminated. Serenity to find her own one. It's all big, it's all huge. Bliss looking rather clinical.
Bliss are large and in charge. A 4-1 lead right now on the defensive theme park. 1 round left remaining in this 5-1 is looking like a possibility.
Absolutely. Quite a number of missed opportunities there, but again, Big Brain Esports almost kind of shooting themselves a little bit in the foot there with the way how they've played so far. Even that they've been trying to almost force that sort of approach of that one-sided kind of all-together push, which I mean, in theory, it's a solid idea. Just unfortunately, not the good idea against Team Bliss, given the general kind of circumstances for it all.
Yeah, indeed. We go to Bunk Daycare once again. Last time we were here, it was a push to get onto the site. I mean, you look at it, Yoshi was forced to run through a toxic canister just to get in position to try and even contest the plant. So I think it goes to show that maybe there is a lack of preparedness on the side of Big Brain Esports. They weren't prepped to come into an attack on Theme Park.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, on the final round of defense of Team Bliss for that top floor hold, not much has really changed. You look at their setups, once again, it's that same kind of crossfire setup for basically anyone to sit around, whether it's going to be Aussie to sit around, whether it's Sav or Time for Pi. Each and one of those players is able to really hold that flank quite nicely. Plus the ballistic shield just outside of the bunks as well should allow Sav to keep a nice solid control over the bunks itself, even after the breach has happened. Unless that shield is being cleared out by Serenity's impact. But so far, look, I'm going to be honest, A little bit of a confusing kind of result so far from Big Brain Esports. If they do manage to make it a 4-2, though, this is going to be all nice and pretty, but I say that with Yoshi once again being absolutely bullied out of the existence. Things are not looking particularly as promising.
Time for Pi. What a player. She's kind of cracked. She has been for the longest time, and to start off the fight around the half, she takes out the Finker, which has been such a big pick for Big Brain in the setup.
Absolutely, yeah. Finker making damage permanence a big talking point. At least it doesn't really hold back Serenity in any shape or form, as the swing was rather clinical, getting rid of Soy. That's the big bandit player as well, gone out of the equation, but much more organized, a bit more of a split-up push to try to establish a bit more of a wider foothold. Now finally should enable Big Brain Esports to make that much necessary play, but again, you look at the positionings of the remaining BBE players. Very still far away from actually making any tangible moves towards the site.
Yeah, we can already hear the rotation of utility in terms of that shield. Cheese opening things up. Serenity looking for a crossfire. They spot time for Pi. Bit of damage, but it's only a shot to connect. And there's still loads of work that needs to be done.
Absolutely, yeah, look. Definitely difficult road ahead for Big Brain Esports, but again, things could very much be turned around rather quickly. Having the fact that it's only, well, there's not even any sort of player disadvantage. The only disadvantage that is slightly in the HP numbers, but a singular headshot would basically even things out rather nicely. If you look at Serenity, so many angles that she has to very much care for that it's almost borderline impossible to stay safe all the time. Time for Pi getting rid of butt feed as well. That's not the ideal play. Swing, though, is relatively expected, but no, Serenity decides to fully commit to it and falls to it as well.
Time for Pi. Another multi-frag round. A triple kill so far. It's Cheese and Chloe to try and make something happen. Pushing on through. Chloe gets a bit deeper into the site, but can't make it happen. Cass, a big kill. Time for Pi looking for it and finds a 4K in the final round of the half. Cthulhu. 5-1 scoreline.
Jeez. Definitely, it's a bit of a almost confusing scoreline, given just how close a fair few games from BBE were. It seems like Team Bliss, at least tonight, are playing on a whole new level, whereas for BBE, it's been a little bit of a just a unfortunately problematic play, just trying to find the right kind of approach, the right pacing for it, and unfortunately, attack did not particularly work out as one would have wanted it to happen. So now going on to the defense, maybe this is where Big Brain Esports will be able to gain their momentum in a much more convincing way. Whereas for Team Bliss, this is going to be the big testament as to how they're intending to really make it work, how they're intending to really, you know, pace themselves, how good was their preparation previously on in the scrims.
Yeah, I mean, Cthulhu, the question has to be asked: what are the odds we see a 5-1 half trade?
There's definitely quite a possibility for that. Wouldn't put it past that. You know, 5-1 trades could very much happen, given that, yeah, again, theme park, it's a very treacherous map, really, and when it comes down to opportunities of finding, you know, very convincing rounds, it is in general a bit of a rarity. So to have a 5-1 scoreline like this already, it's quite an impressive performance. But yeah, 5-1 return, that will definitely put Big Brain Esports back onto the map.
Well, Bliss again in a position here to lock this out and remain top of the table. And it all starts with the entry into the building, which so far has proved a bit problematic for Big Brain. And you got to wonder how much that Monty ban is actually played into Bliss's hands here.
That is true. That's a very good point that we haven't really talked a whole lot about. So definitely this could be, you know, one of the big deciders, given that you know, we've seen a couple teams that do rely on having that sort of passive bullet soaker, and without having that sort of stability, it certainly is a problem, really, for the push. But surely we are going to be seeing a little bit more of a, you know, pushback now from Big Brain. Now that they're on defense, now it's not them that have to basically, you know, manage the time. Now it's them who have to wait basically for the attack to come to them.
So far, I mean, look, the timing has been on spot on. They've gotten in position, they're starting to vert control, they're doing everything they need to. The fuse as well in play, which we barely even touched on. There's so much here of concern for Big Brain. And you can see that they're all tucked in the corners, they're all playing safe. In this position, they can't afford to.
Definitely. Not a single bit of damage has been dealt either. It almost feels a little bit confusing. But they're having a bit of a problem in dealing with the drones, as she's basically being perma-spotted. A lot of information starting to come around. Meanwhile, Bliss are very much just going full on in and hoping to clear out the position. The spot of mute has been basically called out, so minus the yellow ping, yep, basically homed in and completely shut down already. Look, as unfortunate as it is, Big Brain Esports might just end up suffering a rather clinical loss.
She's tucked in the corner. I mean, I think, yeah, this might just be the last little push. The utility clear coming through. Unfortunately, just look at them. There's 3 players holding in and around Throne. Cass finds the first, is traded back. Chloe brings it to the 3 versus 3. But they've already pushed into Armory. They've got some control, looking for the long shots. Cass in a bit of trouble, but Sav luckily will find the kill. They get the defuse into the side, look for the plant. Serenity, massive flank to upset here. And maybe, just maybe, they've done it.
Ooh, okay. Big Brain Esports. Just as I was, you know, thinking that this is kind of the time to call it already. No, Big Brain Esports do manage to bring it back. Played really well on the full-on hunker down, so at least keeping themselves afloat rather nicely. Only 3-round differential will make things a little bit more spicier. Let's call it that. And well, attack certainly didn't particularly bode out too well. Now with the introduction of Zero, though, I definitely do rate the idea a little bit more of that sort of active utility setup for the attack of Team Bliss. Should certainly bring that much needed kind of flexibility in between the gunfights and the strategical play.
Oh dear. Well, a little bit longer for Big Brain in this matchup. It was a very close affair at the tail end, if not for Serenity's investment. Probably would have been a 6th round for Bliss, so yeah, I don't think we're seeing the fuse again, unfortunately. I think they'll look to play it a little bit more effectively, a little bit more efficiently, and try and close it out before we even risk going near overtime.
You know,
10 seconds remaining.
I mean, OT could be one hell of a way to really, you know, bring it back. BB certainly could very much do it, but we'll have to, I suppose, wait and see how will that really affect the general kind of momentum. Because, I mean, just in general, for Women's League, momentum play has been a very impactful kind of turnout. So, should we get to see some sort of a, you know, funky sort of turnout, look, wouldn't put it past that we could see something, some complete turnaround in the general, even mental department as well for a number of those teams.
Yeah. Right now, Big Brain, the best they can do is just hold. They don't want to be throwing bodies away carelessly, because that's where, obviously, the map gets closed out that much quicker. Utility pings coming through. EMP from one of the bulletproof cameras as well, I believe, to stop a drone there. And that's big. I mean, being able to deny that information even momentarily slows the push down.
This is a bit stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment. Simple swing from the bathrooms could very much be her own demise. But the push coming around courtesy of that Thatcher grenade, actually a very well coordinated idea, and yet another play. That's Chloe gone. Cass actually opens up the scoreline rather nicely.
Big kills Cass as well. She's just going to keep going. Big shots on, but Theed in a bit of trouble as well. A rather quiet game from her, uncharacteristically. But I think that just speaks to Bliss and their capabilities on game day. Sav from range takes her down finally. 5 versus 2 with 1 adrenaline surge remaining after that usage just a moment ago. Because we're at the minute mark and they're already threatening the site. Sav, what a headshot.
What a play from down below. Yes, Sav doing some huge plays as well. Courtesy of Aussie as well, applying pressure from down below. Aussie is the one to wrap it all up as well. What a play that will be putting Bliss onto the match point. It seemed like, just as we were starting to talk about, you know, the momentum breaker, Big Brain Esports unfortunately just eased up just a teeny tiny bit that allowed Team Bliss to just absolutely rock themselves through it all. So, nicely done. Only 1 point away now for Team Bliss. If they do manage to look at it in the way how they've done, it could be an absolutely devastating loss here for Big Brain Esports to possibly just only see them at the 2nd place, albeit, again, as long as you sticking around in that top 4, you're basically still making the playoffs. So, not the most tragic turnout, but again, having that 1st place would have definitely been looking a whole lot shinier.
Oh boy, 6-2. 4 rounds needed for overtime. Big Brain have to dig deep here. Unfortunately, they're just being outpaced and outgunned by Bliss, step after step.
Yeah, Bliss has been definitely feeling a whole lot more confident in their play. I mean, you look at players like Time for Pi, like Sav, like Cass, huge numbers being pumped out. Like, I mean, 13-4 for Time for Pi, who has had a absolutely stellar round to really play around. Same could be said for Cass. I mean, 8-3 is a phenomenal as well as scoreline. On the side of Big Brain Esports, look, it's been just a bit of a quieter time. As much as I would hate to say this, it's just maybe it's just not their day today, or maybe the nerves got to them. Who knows? Given that, you know, when it comes down, when the gravity of the situation is like this, when it is the battle between the top 2 teams, sometimes, you know, mental could get unintentionally chalked by just the actual factor of the matchup at hand. So can't really blame them. Serenity trying to run away, and will be actually able to pull it off rather cleanly. And but Theed to actually find the 1st frag is all good and clinical. Oh my lord! Speaking of that, Soy, what a swing!
Massive kill, massive answer back. They lose Aussie, but Theed, who at the moment tied for 2nd in the fragging department for Big Brain behind Serenity, tied with Yoshi. That's a crippling blow.
Absolutely. Although without Aussie, things might get a little bit more dicey. That's a whole lot of utility going and out. That could have been utilized close to the end of the round. Soy, though, does replace Aussie on that sort of downstairs roam, and I mean, that's a really solid replacement. Better yet, probably a much more self-sufficient. I say that, Sav, what happened there? Getting rid of Time for Pi, her own teammate, and giving Team Bliss a bit of a handicap, and look, that could be the big turnaround as well here, I reckon, Panda.
Yeah, Serenity, though, will fall, Sav. Locking down that cash door from range with the 2x scope. Does she know? Well, she does now. Caught with the shotgun, the jiggle peaks, holding down mouse 1, and unfortunately, Chloe, her timing is better. Cass in a bit of trouble now. And Time for Pi, yeah, look, justifiable as the team kill comes through, and there needs to be some vengeance. But Soy, this long range position, I mean, they've still got the time to do it.
Yeah, still plenty of time to pull it off. Definitely only 1 player differential could still, you know, rock the boat. For Big Brain Esports, they just need to play for numbers. I say that numbers game has been dwindled a whole lot. 35 seconds though. 1 shotgun, 1 SMG to lock things down. Soy trying to rendezvous with Cass. Oh no, that is a lot of damage. No more boosts does mean that, well, half HP between both of the players will be making things a whole lot more problematic. SMG 11 out and on the flank. Chloe could really shut things down rather quickly. Oh
yeah,
no.
this flank needs to be huge, the pings, but the reinforcements keeping them safe. The plant going down. Soy should just be able to get it locked in. She's the flank. No!
Oh!
How did that go so horribly wrong? But the down came through. the setup there. Cheese, all she needed to do was finish off the kill, and we'll get the defuse to boot.
Disabled by defenders. Defenders win.
Jeez Louise. Absolutely stunner of a turnout, really. But Bliss, what happened there between, you know, the team kill on time for Pi to just being so stalled out over the balcony is just, it's been so disorganized comparative to what we've seen previously from them. Feels like quite a bit of a stark difference. Possibly looking at, you know, continuation on that Big Brain Esports, you know, saga to bring back, but
Defenders
yeah.
protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
It's definitely been a bit of a question mark moment on a number of rounds, but regardless of that, of what been happening in Team Bliss, Big Brain Esports been taking those opportunities rather fondly, and it's a good thing to see, because we've been just previously talking about how, you know, Big Brain Esports have been having a few rough moments where, you know, it's either the time management that has been unfortunately messing with them, or it's just their own kind of personal timings that didn't particularly work out. Now finally finding those kind of small cracks in the performance of Team Bliss certainly does open the room for talk that Big Brain Esports kind of being able to very sufficiently punish their opponents. They don't really leave a whole lot of room for error to any team that really gets to verse them. So in saying that, it almost forces other teams to, you know, better their play, because otherwise they don't really leave a whole lot of opportunities for Big Brain Esports to really punish them on.
Yeah, indeed. Right now, though, Serenity on the hunt for some drones. May not be there, unfortunately, but still hunting them. Bliss so far have played this, well, I mean, the scoreline kind of dictates it, has played this superiorly. They've quite clearly had Big Brain's number coming into this veto. And you got to wonder, maybe just that depth of map pool might cripple some of these teams in the later stages.
Absolutely, yeah. Depth of map pool is a big talking point, Panda. And something that not a whole lot of teams were able to really flex that, because for a number of rosters, I mean, just the ideal kind of play is nailing down their performance, just cleaning up the act as much as one can possibly do that. So, absolutely, for teams lower on the leaderboard as well, as long as they're able to clean up their own act, this is all good and pretty. But Theed, unfortunately, shut down in hopes of, well, outplaying her opponents, but instead she outplayed herself.
Yeah. Truly unfortunate there, and this might just be the first domino falling. The Caden play, but the hatch is going to be opened up, rather uncontested. Yeah, geez, more focused on that armory wall right now. The Nitro Cell, though, that could be a potential point of upset.
He is ready with player disadvantage. BB still do have a really solid hunker down position. Thatcher EMPs do go out, yet another one to double down in case there would have been a Cade trick, and well, that certainly shuts down Cheese's opportunities here. Completely outing any sort of abilities to make a play. Sav getting rid of Yoshi. This is not looking good. 3v5.
Oh, no, absolutely nothing doing. They lose one, but they find Cheese in that position. It's on to Serenity and Chloe to hold fast. Shots ringing out already. They should be able to get in the swing. Ooh. Big headshot from Serenity. She shut it down last time. Can she shut it down again? Spotted through split shoulder damage. And you can hear the barbed wire being cleared up. Serenity's going to go for the long rotate. This is how she undid things last time. They need to be wary of this position.
Finally, one is actually watching Time for Pi, very much wary this time that the flank could come around. No, but decides to un-ADS. The timing of it all is just so absolutely just painful. And no, the down is there. Triple kill coming around, but Serenity finally over and done with the toe down to Chloe to try to make a play. 8 seconds, but the plant is going to be stuck around. Perfect swing. And right now against an ARX, not a whole lot of things could be done. And there's the finisher. Ozzy is the one to wrap it all up. A rather clinical wrap up after a couple of hiccups by Team Bliss. And for Big Brain Esports, unfortunately, their big head-to-head matchup just results in a rather huge loss.
Look, they took it a little bit longer than we anticipated. Obviously, 5-1.5 to a 7-3 is better than a 7-1, of course. But yeah, look, Bliss locking themselves in, top of the table. A massive performance from the girls.
Huge turnout. The girls over at Team Bliss managed to win it all out in regulation. 7-3 scoreline does definitely also adds up to that round differential as well, should Big Brain Esports throughout the remainder of the season, gain back the points at them. But as it stands, yeah, look, for Big Brain Esports, it just unfortunately just didn't work out at all. And partially maybe it's just the map that just played a cruel joke. Partially it's just maybe just not their day in the mental department either.
I mean, the one benefit, of course, all they need to do is make top 4. Then playoffs is where the real campaign can begin. But Cthulhu, for us right now, map 1 is done. We'll throw it to a break. When we come back, we'll be jumping into match 2 of the evening. Radical Rebels taking on Big Brain Media. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back from the short break to the Unstoppable Women's League. We've had a little bit of a switch on the talent desk tonight. Unfortunately, Blue Panda not feeling the best, so we've made the jump over. I've come to fill in with the great man Cthulhu himself. We're back. Catch me up. What's been going on?
Look, honestly, Proto, we've just managed to watch a rather spicy matchup. Whilst, look, it ended up in a rather heartbreaking scoreline for Big Brain Esports. Team Bliss managed to take out a rather convincing victory, 7-3, on Theme Park, out of all the things. First half, that did conclude in a 5-1 scoreline, with Big Brain Esports just really having a bit of a struggle managing the time on their attack. So certainly some of the rather more unfortunate turnouts happened, but once BB did get onto the defense, it was a little bit more of a prominent kind of turnout, but unfortunately for them, the damage has been already dealt during the first half, so at the end of it all, only 3-pointer was able to be achieved, but it's not over yet for BB for tonight.
Yeah, they do still have one more matchup. Funnily enough, the one that we will be looking at going into our second game of the evening. Radical Rebels taking on Big Brain Esports. So they've had their first go for the evening, unfortunately not panning out the best, but coming into their second game, they're going to be warmed up, ready to go. Because, warming up against Bliss, it's always a good way to get ready for the next game.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, that's one hell of a way to get yourself warmed up and learn up on some of the initial prominent mistakes. But now that we've kind of locked out the top position on the leaderboard, this one is actually going to be an interesting one, Proto, because now Big Brain Esports basically now, or at least currently, a second place team about to verse a team that has been battling to slowly but surely get into that second place as well themselves. Radical Rebels currently sitting on the 3rd position as well on the leaderboard.
Yeah, they've had some pretty impressive players. I mean, taking down Fury, I believe, 7-1, 7-2 on Bank. Names like that, they have been doing really, really well against at the moment. So coming forward into tonight's matchup, as you said, battling for the place that BBE currently hold, RDC looking to lock themselves in at least for top 3 here, top 4, respectively, depending on how this one goes. But either or. Both of these rosters very scary coming into this matchup, and I'd imagine we'll have a little bit more of an in-depth look in the coming moments, but it's definitely shaping up to be an interesting one, Cthulhu. Any early predictions?
Honestly, I still reckon that Big Brain Esports might be the favorites going into the matchup, purely for the fact that, some of the previous performances have been good, and that's been kind of the big talking point previously, that, they could do some damage if the opponent team does end up making a whole lot of mistakes. For Radical Rebels, Meeps, Aussie Ash, Weasel, Jesse Knox, and Angry Wolf are the ones that are going to be performing tonight. And look, it's a roster that has been slowly but surely improving, with Mystique Allure and Eevee Nuggets being their subs. It's a roster that has quite a wide array of operators that can do a lot of damage. So, honestly, curious to see how will Radical Rebels be able to really take on Big Brain Esports, because if Big Brain Esports end up taking 2 losses tonight, the second place will be up and open for contention.
Yeah, and RDC will be looking to fill those shoes pretty quickly. But on the other side of the card, you just mentioned Big Brain Esports, the roster coming on to the back end of the card for tonight. They have the cracked roster that they've been running with for a while now. Obviously, Buddha, they have Chloe, they have Cheesebender, Repel, Burner Bear, Coach, Webra, Fish Noodle, Yoshi, and Serenity tonight. So Very, very insane roster. One that is very, very capable and has proven themselves on multiple occasions. So no real surprise that they are the favourites coming into this Cthulhu.
Absolutely. Yeah, a roster that has had quite a fair bit of a experience throughout numerous seasons of Women's League. Certainly, Big Brain Esports could do a lot of damage and a lot of work. I mean, the stats themselves speak for their performance for quite a while, rather well, nearing even the 800, sort of numbers for the kills as well. Buttfeed or Buddha as well, previously known as, been performing quite an occasionally solid few performances. Serenity as well, just in the previous matches, we were able to see her be able to pull a number of really solid flanks as well to send the favor during the rounds in favor of BBE. So, look, with Cheesebender, Repel, and Bernabear in the background as well as subs, I mean, this is a very well-rounded roster.
Yes, it indeed is Cthulhu, but these two rosters duking it out. Where will it be? The map pool, the map veto, the map choice, whichever you would like to call it, are coming up on our screens right now. Where are we going to? We're going to Bank once more. So RDC definitely happy with that one, given their previous performance against Fury, as I mentioned in the opening moments. Going back to Bank, I think RDC are going to be happy with that. I mean, Cthulhu, do you think that having Bank as the map pick tonight is going to be any sort of indication for RDC, given they had a really good performance on it already this season? Or do you think maybe BBE are expecting it, given that they were the ones to let it through the veto?
I think it might end up being a little bit of a kind of an even ground, given that, theme, interestingly enough, that has been only in the last bits of the ban phase actually banned out. It's obvious that RDC wouldn't want to go to that map, given Theme Park in general. Just it's one of those maps that not a whole lot of teams are really, too keen on playing it. And after obviously Blue Panda calling out a number of players for being quite boring on the map picks, Bank upon us being, I'm actually quite keen for this one, because on the one hand you have Radical Rebels, who I am assuming they just had a solid game against VA as well, but now going into a battle against the BBE, who also got warmed up against arguably one of the best teams, or rather one of the best players in the Women's League as well. Well, this could be an even Steven kind of battle.
But Thatcher, I do have to argue, would probably be the one that bites the dust here in their case as well. On the defense side, though, Mirror to go, maybe the Azami, possibly. But I think we're probably going to see back to basics. Probably the Mirror, probably the Valkyrie. Thatcher already gone, so Havana available, but most likely the Think could do.
I mean, we've seen in the previous matchup as well a relatively standardized ban. You are correct, but Monty has been banned out previously, which did kind of put a little bit of a dent in the general kind of performance of Big Brain Esports. Interestingly enough, though, they do get rid of a Hibana, so I suppose that very far-reaching kind of remote hard-breaching utility is no longer there. So let's say, for example, you want to clear out the position over by the wall at the main spiral stairs into the second story of the bank towards the elevators. You can't really do that unless you just try to long arm it with the ace. So there's a number of opportunities that are being shut down, and maybe that's just more so for their own kind of sanity for when they do get to play on the defense. Apart from that, yeah, look, this is feeling just about as standardized as one can get, minus the Hibana ban.
Yeah, I mean, so far I'm 3 for 3. Hoping that Valkyrie's the last to go to keep that 100% streak running, but no, Smoke. An interesting ban from RDC, Big Brain. Obviously having a pretty decent Smoke player, they want to get rid of that. Chloe, obviously, the one that we are speaking to when we say a great Smoke player. But there you go, the ban's done. Round number 1 to begin momentarily. We head straight up to the second floor, executive lounge and office. Pretty solid lineup. The Valkyrie already in play for Aussie Ash. So given that it made it through the ban phase, she is going to be coming out very quickly here from defense.
Very much curious how will Valkyrie be able to affect the general playing field, because on one hand, yep, you have that sort of flexibility on the defense with the sheer information gathering utility, with the sheer kind of flexibility on the general loadout, the MPX, the C4, everything looking good. But on the hand of BB, they have a Finka. So the damage permanence is no longer be as prominent as one would have, say, if Finka is banned out or flat out just not picked. Plus, I mean, the KB and Twitch does, make things a whole lot more spicier. So ability to, have sort of the ability to play for that roam clear, plus the ability to remotely get rid of some of the more electronic utility. That's a good mix of what Big Brain Media is bringing over.
Yeah, I mean, the Dokkaebi, a good choice here from Yoshi. We do see the shield set up, ultimately facing stock as opposed to facing top square, but with that wall opened up inside of the site, which is what we see from most competitive setups nowadays, no real surprise that they're going to have someone well, I'd imagine they will have someone inside of the site, maybe Meeps, maybe Weasel, playing on that long angle to watch for the walk-in, paired with the Valkyrie cameras from Aussie Ash, maybe even for the Nitros, but there you go, the shield will be flipped on around. So just a misplace, nothing really too much to read into it, albeit solid start, solid setup here for RDC, but Big Brain bring an interesting lineup of their own. They've got the Ying, we've got the Finka, the Flores as well from Chloe. I mean, we expecting anything spicy?
Speaking of the spicy already, a bit of a parkour really there for Serenity's Twitch drum. Perfectly working it all out. Just like that already. That's, I believe, most of the allocated bandit charges already all completely expended. Yeah, rather quickly, rather rapidly. Unfortunately for Chloe, her Retero drum does get jammed. It's not particularly ideal play, but once the jammer does go down, it would be rather problematic. Another one does go in. Chloe trying to make it work, but already with number disadvantage, this is problematic for Radical Rebels.
Yeah, RDC already taking 2 losses, unfortunately not able to consolidate anything back for themselves. Meeps below, the only real operator that can have an impact, does have a Nitro to play with, but Angry, the one to get aggressive outside of Janitor here, unfortunately not finding anything, but from the rappel on the main window side, you have this bomb site locked down and cut in half for the rotates, making things difficult. So coming forward into the dying moments, the pings are available. Aussie Ash could go huge, provided she can hit this Nitro from below, but I don't think they're too keen to jump in just yet. It's pre-placed and ready for the call, so this could be big on the opening kill here.
Absolutely. Fish Noodle and Co are looking to make a push. Yoshi falls. Angry does get the better of Yoshi. That's one of the big plays. Aussie Ash actually on the main stage could make a big play, but all of them do fall apart rather quickly. It's all down to Meeps to try to make a play. There's the C4 as well on top of it all. 1v3 though, with all that, the last bit of utility expelled. BB have basically free real estate over the side, and it will take quite a miracle run really to try to basically find all those frags now that the timer is ticking against Meeps.
1 versus 3. The Fink is still in play as well. All players remaining over boosted now to 120 HP. The repels, I'd imagine, being played. Buddha getting that bomb down in quick succession. Yeah, there you go. 2 players outside looking to play that rappel angle. 1 inside of the building to lock down the cross here. Meeps has to aggress into the site. Will be spotted out. A lot of damage dealt. Fish Noodle, though, takes a considerable amount on the spray trade. Meeps rotates around into the white hallway. Doesn't quite spot the player inside of Janitor. Does swing on round. Will spot the head. Can connect the shot. Fish Noodle goes down from the window, though. Buddha. Big Brain lock it down with a good post plant. The crossfires being held. And there you go.
Decent hold for the crossfires, certainly worked out quite well, although for a brief moment it did get a bit dicey there, but I say that still all according to plan, still were able to hold on to their position pretty straightforwardly, so nothing really to work, or rather worry about. And yeah, look, a good solid start once again for Big Brain Esports, but that was a similar way how they started off against Team Bliss. From there on, things took a rather frustrating turn, but comparing the attack on Bank and on Theme Park, 2 completely different layouts, 2 completely different, storylines, whereas on Theme Park it's just difficult in general to just juggle the, the time management, the way how, they could establish their footholds. With Bank, it is a little bit more straightforward. The positions that you can take once you make an entry into the building does certainly allow a much more quicker entry onto the actual site.
Yeah, I mean, having those avenues opened up really quickly. We saw the Twitch drones there used to great avail by BBE. Nothing really there to stop them from RDC. I mean, we did see the mute jammers from Meeps, but they just weren't in the right spots, and unfortunately could not stop the Twitch drones, albeit Serenity will switch off, choose to bring the Twitch once more. So we have seen a little bit of a switch from RDC, though. They've opted to bring the Cade instead as a favourite. But either way, Cthulhu, denial is denial at the end of the day, whether it's a mute or a... It does the job, provided that the Twitch drones don't find them, which they did in the previous. So Serenity can keep that up. The wall once more will be opened up, I'd imagine, pretty quickly here for BBE once more.
Totally. BBE not really wasting a whole lot of time. Learned that lesson rather promptly after that game against Team Bliss. Looking to make it as snappy as possible, opening up quite a number of crossfire positions, but Meeps, perfect position. I was just about to talk that, saying that she has a perfect angle to shut down Yoshi, and indeed she does. That makes things a little bit more problematic, given that no longer they have this sort of crossfire. Big Brain Esports might end up faltering once the actual push comes to shove, but at least the soft breach is coming around, given that Radical Rebels keep that wall soft, so relatively easy entry onto the site could be promised here.
Could just be the send from Fish Noodle, provided she wants to go for it. Serenity to open things up with one onto Aussie Ash. Looking for a second inside of Janitor here, playing safely though on the angle, knows that there's one close by. Will swing on round, will find the head, angry to fall. Now the lead going back in favour of BBE. Could go for the entry onto the site. They know where the majority of these players should be. Fish Noodle to take down Weasel. 2 players left for RDC. Jesse will take some big damage. Meeps again once more on this roam downstairs, looking for possibly a Nitro, but the bomb already being planted. Buddha getting it down once more inside of the site. The rappel's being held. Meeps has to go huge on this flank, but it's already going to be a retake.
Yeah, just like that, rather quick turnaround. Big Brain Esports certainly know that no more do they have to play a very kind of face down play. A bit of a naughty kind of swing, a little bit of an underarm from Meeps, hoping to find her own frag, but she's being hunted very thoroughly. Does transfer 1, nearly transfers 2, but my lord, BB Esports, they are getting a little bit more hungry and hungrier by a round.
Oh, that would have been insane had a couple more bullets been there in the MP5 there for Meeps, but you still do have to give it to her. The spray transfer from the person on the window to the person dropping down into square. I mean, BBE were kind of just feeding kills at that point. You know, had a couple more bullets been available, had that thinker not dropped on down, that could have been a very clutchable position for Meeps. But still, regardless, Big Brain. The executes from them, flawless at the moment, doing really, really well so far in this matchup. 2 for them on the top floor, and that is going to force RDC into the downstairs. They don't want to go upstairs anymore, given that they've already lost it twice. Sends, though, from Chloe, making their way in to the operator pick field.
Yeah, curious about that sense pick. Or rather, what would have been a sense pick, given that Chloe just decided to switch off back to 0. And she did flex it before on Theme Park, albeit for a brief moment, and unfortunately it didn't net as much of a success as one would have wanted to see. But 0 on Bank could really set up a really good amount of surveillance over the defense. And with the fact that those Argus cameras could go over or rather through the reinforced walls as well, it certainly does provide a little bit more flexibility in even, say, dealing with some of those pesky mute jammers and occasionally the bandit batteries as well. So, definitely curious how will Chloe be able to utilize this in tandem with, say, even somebody like Twitch, to be able to get through some of the setups and reinforcements. But apart from that, BBE has been rather clean on their play. More so just even maybe overcompensating once they do get to the actual gunfights. But Meeps finding yet again that sort of initial first blood onto Yoshi does certainly put a little bit more promise into Radical Rebels' possibilities for play.
Meeps putting in the big work for her team right now. Really the only one with any considerable kills. Angry, the only other player to have some frags. But speaking of frags, Fish Noodle to prep and throw, unfortunately not quite cooked right. Weezer will take some damage, but it's Serenity to collect the kill regardless. So they have worked in tandem here to find a trade back. Weezer will go down, but they do still have Meeps on the top floor. The big fragger right now for RDC, so if they can find her, take her out, it'll be good footing for BBE to make this work. But Chloe coming round into Banana on the 0, has been doing great so far. Will spot the head, and there you go, collects the kill. Great start once more for BBE on this roam clip.
He's just as we were starting to talk about the fact that, you know, Meeps could be the one to keep on opening up the possibilities. Unfortunately for her and Weasel, things do fall apart. Aussie Ash, though, does get the better of Serenity, so at least no more of the pesky Twitch plays, but still plenty of opportunities. 3v3 with half a round to go. This is ample time, really, to make a play, and those Argus cameras to be able to drain a couple of setups is definitely going to be going good. Frag grenade to possibly out. That won't be really getting rid of Jesse Knox, but the C4, again, underarmed as well. Not particularly the best kind of turnout, and C4 to be disposed of to not really have any sort of issue.
No real vertical play here available for BBE, so it is going to have to be a lot of face checking moving into the side. It will be Fishnu to lead the charge. A lot of damage taken, but none given. Jesse confirms that kill onto the Finker, and very quickly things for BBE not looking great. They do still have 2 players available versus 3. Angry on half HP as well. So a very winnable round, provided they can find a pick to open things up. No, Angry to find one onto Buddha. And Jessie for her second RDC. Answer back with a very strong round on the first floor.
Very good hold by RDC as they finally do manage to break that sort of 2-round streak that was accomplished by Radical, or not Radical, by Big Brain Esports. So promising definitely a much more closer venture than what BB have received back on Theme Park. And Locus and CCTV Room will be the next choice of the play. Azami to be brought out yet again is looking to be the play, and finally that Monty as well, Chloe, who has been rather sad back on Theme Park that Monty has been banned out, will be looking to make that appearance. Now, Monty has had a few very interesting kind of roles, let's say, in the attack, given that with the ability to, you know, bring in the secondary hard breach charge, theoretically, it is, for the most of it, a self-sufficient unit. Given you can, you know, be the first one to be that super soaker for some of the damage. Plus, once some of the clearance has been done and you can kind of isolate a small corner, you can obviously also do the breaching. So, in terms of that, Big Brain Esports certainly keeping themselves rather well secured, but just as I, you know, start fantasizing about all the possibilities for, you know, how Monty could be used, instead I get, well, an Ursa.
Look, Ursa has had a really good fit into the current meta, useful for a multitude of things. You've got plants, obviously plants, the shields to hold down positions. I mean, we see it a lot on Oregon. They're used on the backstairs to sort of hold down pillar. Smokes as well. And on top of that, great gun. So no real surprise that Chloe is bringing out Ursa. And Serenity on the knock as well. So some interesting sort of niche picks here from BBE, but given that RDC are locking down this top floor with a guard extension for a basement hold, it's no real surprise that they bought this interesting lineup of operators because they want to open things up and look to make some plays upstairs.
Absolutely. Look, Nook definitely could be a big player. Interestingly enough, that it's a Nook running the secondary hard breach charges rather than a frag grenade, so maybe it was a call from Big Brain Media that they don't really per se need so many frag grenades, but they do need some extra breaching ability. Serenity hoping to find kind of the position where she could make a play between herself, Buttfeed, and Chloe, but Yoshi instead is the one to step up to the challenge of breaching the soft hatches. And you look at the RDC setup, very turtle-like, giving away quite a lot of free real estate, but that sort of still leads into a general good play. Weasel and Meeps as well on the roam could do a lot, I mean a lot of damage, but already with the shots being fired, it's Angry to actually pick up a frag.
Angry on blue, putting in big work, but caught by Buddha, unfortunately. Chloe as well, definitely caught lacking. Trousers around the ankles, tight thing, but the flank from Weasel down blue to find one will be big. Buddha goes down. Yoshi now needs to find this refrag. She wants to at least equalise, but inside a square, not spotted behind the chairs, will take some damage, but it's Chloe on the support to come on through to help collect that frag. A minute left in play. Hard breaches are available, but Serenity on the other side of the map, it's going to make things a bit difficult. So they look to entry through server.
It will be a little bit more of a kind of a choke point push. Serenity will have to do a whole lot of work here, but I say that C4, no, bait and switch came around. Yoshi got a little bit too keen for the play to happen, and she decided to push in. Chloe does get the better of Jesse Knox, instead decides to absolutely frag out. No, Serenity as well on the flank. It all fell apart just as I was about to start talking strats, but that was questionable turnout, but regardless of that, for BBE, they still managed to take it.
I don't know how that Nitro kills Yoshi and not Chloe.
I think Yoshi just generally just pushed in a little bit too far towards that doorway. Something
went wrong there. I don't know what, but regardless, they won the round. If they hadn't, that definitely would have been a bit of a tilter, given that Nitro and how it panned out. But either way, IDC on the defense, arguably Bank being a defender-sided map, not having the greatest of starts, unfortunately. 1-3 scoreline. BB on this attack are putting in the hard yards early on here before they switch over on their half to defense.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs.
Yeah, definitely curious as to what is going wrong there for the RDC roster, because certainly it's been a bit of a kind of all over the place turnout really there for them. Maybe, you know, certain kind of results in the way how they held their positions could be addressed. Maybe just gunfights and the timings that didn't particularly work out for them, given that, I mean, you look at the roles, Meeps was the one that was quite consistently on a number of occasions opening up some really good potential gunfights, but then either is just not being able to get a firm read on the rest of the team, or whether it's just, you know, a little bit of a hesitation in the play that causes the death. Look, this one, I think this one's just the overly aggressive, plus the pre-fire galore live drone as well there. Yoshi, no! Single spray and 2 frags to boot.
2 frags through the wall, Cthulhu. Keep that in mind as well. Oh my. Now on track as well. Meeps in trouble inside a square. Will have her teammate close by to support Angry. There for the backup, and she will be able to escape to somewhat of a safe haven inside of Tellers for the time being. They don't know that Angry is as close as she is in support, so provided she can do some damage, she will take Serenity down to not a considerable amount of HP, but will lose her life in the end. And Meeps gets away, still running towards the ATM side. Jackal hot on her trails, a 3 versus 3, and BBE have done well to consolidate losses, but at this point, Meeps, an insane roam, carrying the team right now on this roam.
Absolutely. It's been a huge effort from Meeps to keep RDC afloat as much as one can make it in the kind of deck of cards that was, you know, given to her. And that said, already half a round drained with the Zoff and the Finker gone, the 2 LMG players out of the equation. Certainly going to be a little bit more problematic, but I mean, we've seen a number of players just to be able to still frag out regardless of that sort of LMG crutch. But oh, the snap comes around, could be big. Chloe needs to make sure that she lines up the shot around as well. C4, no, does not connect. Oh, absolutely disgusting play. What?
That's 3 wall bangs in this round for RDC on the defense. BBE, no real chance whatsoever in terms of dealing with that. I mean, you can't really counter a wallbang, can you, Cthulhu? But coming down into the 1 versus 2, it's going to have to be a face check into the site here from Buddha. She's got 2 to find, Meeps and Aussie Ash, both of which have found wallbangs already in this round. The quick peek's coming out, trying to find maybe an opening here. If she can find one, the avenue into the site will be a hell of a lot easier. But on the cross from inside of red, damage taken. Buddha doesn't have taken out just quite yet. Still holds on for a little bit of time. Will opt to shoot the Capcan traps if she wants to go deep. Makes her way into the site. 1 on the right, 1 on the left. Swinging on in, though. It's going to be Aussie Ash to find 3 in the round. And RDC find their second on the board.
Who's the Ash? My lord. That was a solid play.
That was disgusting.
Yeah, that was something to watch, because I mean, that was still a really good pacing, being able to dispatch this well, read into that sort of push, and then serve that sort of pre-fire through the wall. I mean, that's one hell of a way to get back on track for all those swings, for all those plays that were done upon them by Big Brain Esports. It definitely didn't bode too well for BBE on that push.
Yeah, I mean, fight aggression with aggression, right? It definitely panned out that way for RDC, and that's probably what they needed to be doing from the get-go here. They had the Valkyrie play the information. I mean, we saw it that round from them. We saw that extended roam prove to pay off quite extensively with those opening 2 kills. And even then, a highlight, Meep still just absolutely putting in the work for her team right now. Those 2 kills in open to really open it up, pun intended. Unfortunately, not the Jackal, though. But Finker off the board early, as well as, I believe, Zero. Don't quote me. 2 big picks to find. And really well done. I mean, great shots, regardless through the wall. I mean, great shots. But, yeah, Big Brain just could not consolidate the losses whatsoever and seemed to be a little bit sort of stunned at the beginning of that round. So, really good work from RDC to consolidate losses. Looking good for a 3-3 here if they can keep that up.
Yeah, Radical Rebels may have just found that sort of the winning formula, as that early damage onto the numbers of Big Brain Esports could very quickly halt them in that progress. That sort of play shouldn't even be allowed. How is Meeps alive out of all of this? How is Fish Noodle alive amidst all this chaos? It's completely beyond me, Proto. I mean, both parties should have taken an L, but neither of them actually took that L.
Multitude of questions. I rappel up in front of the door. 3 people rappelled up in front of the door. Why not have a drone in? Oh, Cthulhu. A lot of questions. A lot of questions left with no answers. And I'd imagine we probably won't get the answer for those questions. But either way, both teams walking away with their players alive. As I say that, though,
Okay. Weasel.
We'll find Weasel on a bit of an interesting swing around. So Big Brain, I guess, come out on top of it with the adrenal surges as well to return Fish back to her former glory on the HP bar. So, yeah.
Look, definitely some rather peculiar opportunities been had, so it certainly is, just in general, been a rather odd matchup. So we could possibly see an interesting turnaround to really happen. Curious how will BB really play their cards from here on out. Now they got the vertical going, but Jesse Knox finding the shot into Butty definitely does make things a whole lot easier.
Yeah, no, definitely doesn't, but still has some good utility on the site. Jesse with the Nitro, Angry with the impacts. I mean, coming into a 4v4 Cthulhu, it's looked good for both sides.
Not good at all. BBE just losing out on that extra player, as well as Serenity, just as I say that. Oh, a heartbreak and a half, given that Big Brain had the momentum to really put it into Radical Rebels' scoreline. Making it a 4-2 would have been a great boon for them to really make it work, but alas, things didn't particularly work out. At least the frag grenade does actually clear out both the Mew Jammers, so the breach is rather nice and snappy, but 38 seconds to go. A lot of things need to be done in that time.
Low to find one. Angry will fall a 3 versus 3 with Meep still on low HP from the beginning of the round. Thrown on the floor, maybe not expected here by BBEs. They go for the entry. Meeps indeed will find one. Yoshi to trade back on Jesse for a cost of a lot of health, but it's Chloe on an attempted flank, but the wall not opened up means that she can't make it around. They're going to have to go for the force here. The smoke does cover the cross, but Meep's there to collect on the prone. Will be found. Chloe to find it. Yoshi now left to cover the bomb going down. Aussie Ash walking on into the site. Will spot the head of one. Can't connect the shot. Rotate is available, but not chosen. The post plant there. Now, in a 1 versus 2, Yoshi and Chloe to clutch it up and go huge. The BBE, indeed they will. Yoshi connects. And Big Brain lock out the half 4-2.
Jeez. Just as I was about to start getting worried for BBE, they just bring it all back. Rather well, really. A good, well-paced play. And as it stands, well, look, a bit of a break really before the next half, as well. We're just going to be awaiting for one of the Big Brain Esports players to reconnect. But Proto, this has been such a wild ride that quite difficult to predict as to what's going to happen in the second half, because I mean, Big Brain Esports in the same sort of set of several rounds had a phenomenal turnout where they just absolutely beaming their opponents to being picked apart one by one and being pre-fired through the walls left, right, and center. So
Yeah.
quite difficult to call as to what is actually going on in both camps. But it definitely proves to be quite an entertaining matchup.
It does, yeah, it does. It's definitely a good giggle when you see stuff like that go on. It's also kind of insane that, you know, we see the development of these teams through multiple seasons all starting to culminate together. Because I mean, the interplay, information relay, everything like that for RDC so far. Yes, they may not be winning right now, but I mean, Meeps single-handedly just dismantling BBE on multiple occasions with that information provided from her teammates, just putting in the work and doing really, really good at the moment. So BBE actually pretty solidly looking to continue on into this second half. RDC, obviously, as well, going on the attack now, are going to have to look to sort of up the ante a little bit, because down 2 rounds on a defender-sided map against a team like BBE, things are going to be a little bit difficult. But, yeah, unfortunately, we are going to have to get this reconnect done off-screen, so we will cut to a very short break, and we will be back momentarily. So don't go anywhere. We return after the break. Well, we're back. We've got the players back in, and we continue right where we left off. Just at the end, before the break, BBE ended the half at a 4-2 with a great conclusion in a 2 versus 4 clutch. We now go on to the defensive side for Big Brain, the half switch RDC onto the attack. Cthulhu predictions. I mean, what do we think is going to happen?
Oh, look, a number of things really could happen. On the side of Big Brain Esports, a couple of rounds definitely looked a little bit dicey. Like I've mentioned before, it went from an absolutely, beaming each other with only a millisecond of a reaction speed to having just an absolute all-out brawl, just swinging wildly at each other. So very much of a kind of unpredictable dynamic that has been kind of evolving for the majority of the time played. But I mean, as it stands, Radical Rebels could really take out quite a number of rounds here against Big Brain Esports, but with the way how Big Brain Esports were conducting themselves, they're just a teeny tiny bit more consistent in the way how they approach their sites, at least in that regard. They had quite a thorough upper hand against the RDC, so take it as how you want it, but I think BB would still be considered relative favorites going into this matchup.
Yeah, especially now that they're on the defense. But a very quick entry into the main lobby for 2 players from RDC. They don't spot the Echo Drone, but I don't think anyone's quite on it for the defense. Buddha will take a lot of damage. Angry will finally clear out that information. And on the spiral stairs, 2 players are there, ready to entry on the main windows as well. Serenity doesn't spot the one on Repel, but will find Jackal on the spiral stairs. Still doesn't spot the Repel player. Not swinging around for the refrag. Serenity, however, won't take... No, she will take 2. Jessie, not paying attention, costing her team 2 frags. Serenity walks away almost without a scratch.
I'm lost for words there as to what happened for Jesse Knox. Unfortunately, just the bars off the window just played a very cruel joke. Kind of from there on, well, not much could really be said. Another attempt is being made at trying to now re-establish that sort of control over the ground floor, but damage has been already made. I mean, Jesse Knox already continuously taking the damage and not really having a whole lot of understanding as to where the damage is coming from. Chloe just keeps on just thumping away at the life of RDC in general.
Yeah, Aussie Ash now going down to Jesse, the last alive on the Repel, 50 HP in the main lobby, looking to do some damage. Will find one, downs the other in the process as well. Chloe could be revived in the moments coming, but he's going to opt to try and confirm these kills. Hiding on the main stairs, the ping's given, but it's Fish Noodle. There you go, BBE in spectacular fashion take their first round on defense without any real issues.
Not at all. Nice and clean is the defense. And yeah, look, Chloe, it's been quite a stunner of a round. So at least for Big Brain Media, it seems like this very matchup against Radical Rebels seems to be kind of that match for redemption after quite the spanking that they were handed in by Bliss female team. So, look, I mean, going 1-for-1 on your performance, not too shabby at all. And with Team Bliss scoring themselves a 16-pointer off the back of the first one, and I believe they already wrapped up a 7-0 against Benchwarmers. That will be keeping them all solid on the first place, whereas Big Brain Esports might just be able to lock themselves in for that second place into the kind of that top 3, I guess, positions.
Yeah. Either way, BBE locking it down so far on Bank and doing a really good job at the moment.
10 seconds left before
So unless RDC can sort of flip it around here, it's going to be difficult for them going into the future, I'd imagine. Regardless, though, it's a team that definitely has the ability to do the damage, provided they can find the momentum. They haven't had the best luck at the moment, unfortunately, as BBE have sort of just stormed into their defensive half in relatively dominating fashion as they set up for the bottom floor. RDC definitely going to have their work cut out for them here on this bottom floor hold.
Yeah, quite a lot of effort will have to be put into that sort of general play, so for Radical Rebels to bring it back, it will take quite a solid effort. I mean, look, unfortunately for Weasel, for example, it's been a rather bit of a quieter game. At least Jesse Knox is able to, find that early frag. It's a fish noodle out of all the people as well. Quite an impactful big frag as well. So this does open up the opportunity for RDC to finally establish their own foothold. But the fact that Yoshi just ferociously just fights back definitely does spell a few more problems for Radical Rebels, and once again, a stall out could be a bit of a a problematic thing. I mean, they still, after all of that kerfuffle around the eastern skylight stairs, they only now just opting to go into the stock.
Yeah, a little bit of a slower take here from RDC, but given they found a pick early, given it was the Legion as well, they're probably just going to opt to take their time. Arguably, you can't really blame them, but Serenity there to greet them. The middle way of those main stairs. Angry will do her best to chase down, but Serenity's gone, takes the kill and goes. And losing the Kappa Tower before it comes to the planting side of things, not the best operator to take, but, well, best operator to take, not the best to lose, should we be saying, as they go for a little bit of a bait play here. Yoshi maybe looking to get a kill if they fall for the sound trick.
Yeah, we've seen a number of times when in Women's League when players just try to play for that sort of sound cue. Oh, the perfect flank. Yoshi finds a frag and bails out, not really looking to get any further aggressive, although expects a follow-up, expects the attack to start hunting her, and for all the right reasons, Angry actually holding an angle, but there's a press spear through her. It doesn't deal just about enough damage to get it down onto Yoshi, so just forcing her off that position. And now it's up to, not Chloe, pardon me, Weasel, try to hunt the Valkyrie.
Not long left, 30 seconds, and Big Brain have taken it back in favour of themselves, but spotted. It's going to be Weasel to come out on top of that one, and Chloe, side of Vault, does have the Goyo canisters to start pushing out for the denial time, but it's a rotate over to Blue very quickly, looking to open up that wall and go for the default plant. Nitro's in play. They do still have Serenity inside of the site as well. The ping's available from the Black Eye here too. Means that there is so much information. The wall will be opened up with the Goyo canister there to greet. The first kill goes in favour of Serenity. Swings on round for the second. Make it 3 in the round for her. Looking for 4 as Weasel has to walk in. Serenity will be down, but the fire is going to force her into the corner. BBE on time. They're going to win that round and put another one on the board. Match point for them in their favour now.
Well, that's one heck of a way to take the round for themselves. From 0 to 100 in a matter of a few seconds. Big Brain Esports, yeah, on a match point. Rather snappy on their performance, apart from a few hiccups back on their own attack. Everything else seems to be rather solid on their defense, keeping the general momentum in their own control, whilst keeping RDC on their toes, not really letting them to take control of certain footholds in a quick manner, and neither allowing them to have that sort of early, I suppose, momentum for too long. So good to see that Big Brain Esports have learned their own kind of mistakes from, keeping the momentum more so in their court rather than allowing their opponents to gain any sort of control over it. But it sort of begs for a question about maybe consistency as to just how much of that consistency could be done and could be, gained, and how well can teams like Big Brain Esports keep it up? Because say they stick around on the second place for the majority of the ladder. Say Bliss doesn't drop a single map, and then we go into the playoffs. How well can Big Brain Esports then keep up their own play for the endurance run that will be the BO3 rather than a BO1? From there on, look, the discussion could be opened up even further, but I suppose with us being only on play day number 3, maybe it's a little bit too early.
Oh, look, theory crafting's always good fun. we enjoy
good times
at the Women's League, but either or, at the moment. Drone spotted out on the top floor. We've got an interesting setup inside of stock with the Azami. Very aggressive play here from Chloe, but a late setup. Good cost her, provided she's droned out and found. And I don't actually think the keeper barricade's actually opened up properly there on the desks. So unfortunately for Chloe, that might make holding inside of the loan office a little bit more difficult. But RDC prepping to sort of open things up on the top floor here. Once again, repelling just outside of that door. Similar mistakes, but not capitalized on by BBE. There you go. Those keeper barricades have opened up some Cthulhu. Interesting setup on the top floor, but one that I think is going to open up a lot of avenues for some early picks.
Absolutely. Pigs could certainly do a lot of work here. Chloe, very almost courageous play. Kind of trying to hold off the stock in the way how she did it. It slowed down the push all right. I mean, a minute drain just off the back of just trying to take the stock. That's pretty solid so far. And being able to back away relatively scot-free, although Yoshi wants to take some of those gunfights. He definitely does not want peace. She wants only gunfights and the chaos. But, oh, no way. No way Yoshi actually gets a C4 from down below.
The sound cues available here. Yoshi hears the players above her. But does not for the Nitro as they all move over towards loan office in the hallway. But there you go. Look at the Black Eye providing so much information here to the defense. And RDC yet to bring anything to really deal with it. Nitro out. It's not going to connect, unfortunately, which means that utility now lost. The life of Yoshi almost lost as well in the process through the vertical hold opened up by Aussie Ash here. But the execute to come. Serenity opens it up.
Well then, Serenity also picking up nice snappy 2 more frags. Only 3 frags away from just closing out this matchup. Big Brain Esports basically just mopping up the floor with Radical Rebels as much as they would have wanted to have this match prolonged to as long as one could make it. For Aussie Ash and Jesse Knox, it is going to be a tall order to bring this one back. Although we did see those comebacks to happen, but with 1v5, this is looking to be a flawless conclusion.
Serenity with another kill for herself, just further padding the stats. I mean, 13 and 4, an insane game day from her. Jesse's going to have to go big in a 1 versus 5 if she wants to continue with this matchup, because at the moment, Big Brain looking good to close it out right here. Cthulhu without any continuations, picking on in from inside of Archive. Serenity on the flank looking for her 4th. Just misses the player walking down the stairs. Jesse will find 1, not another though. Serenity is there to collect. There you go, Big Brain in spectacular fashion. 7-2 are walking away with the victory on bank. RDC, unfortunately not a repeat performance.
Yeah, sad day for RDC camp, but regardless, they managed to make it work. And yeah, look, Serenity is in fact gaming and being able to just perform almost flawlessly. A 7-2 scoreline, definitely a much better turnout for BBE comparative to their run against Team Bliss. But my god, Proton, what a run on bank.
Yeah, locking it in for 2nd place for themselves on the leaderboard. Whether or not we get to have a look at said leaderboard, we will find out momentarily. But yeah, 7-2 for BBE, locking in their position right now. Unfortunately, RDC unable to make a dent in that one, but albeit Cthulhu, I mean, a great game regardless.
Oh yeah, still a valiant effort. So gotta still congratulate RDC. They, tried their best, tried to push it as farther as possible, but just unfortunately, BBE were just a little bit more prepared, I guess, a little bit more warmed up for this kind of general matchup. So, look, at the end of it all, unfortunately, it is what it is, really, for them. And yeah, this will be, though, still keeping, I believe, RDC in the top 4 kind of position, as I do keep on hearing a rather shock and awe response from the production about the results. But Inferno, their matchup against Fury, they actually ended up winning out as well. So we do get to see those results relatively soon as well, updated. But Proto, well, I absolutely action-packed day, the week 3 of the Unstoppable Women's League, and we already have quite a number of results. I mean, unfortunately for Radical Rebels, it's been a rough day.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it has. I mean, 2-7-2 losses, not what you want to see, unfortunately. But, I mean, you look at teams like Bliss, you look at teams like Viking Army, 2 dubs for them. Fury, 1 dub, 1 loss, unfortunately, in overtime, which is interesting, given that Inferno, coming into week number 3, not what I would have expected in terms of the Fury matchup, but very well done from Inferno. I mean, to take that in overtime, that's a pretty big win for them and might actually help them move up from the bottom end of the leaderboard towards the middle.
Absolutely. Look, yeah, for Inferno, that's a boost in their performance, given that will be actually solving I think to a certain degree, the tiebreaker that was initially at the bottom of the leaderboard between themselves and Triara as well. So that's one way to really do it. But apart from that, yeah, look, for Team Bliss, a relatively chill day. Not much to be said apart from a 7-3 and a 7-0 spanking against Benchwarmers, who unfortunately will feel that sort of wrath. Benchwarmers, though, at least they run away with a regulation set of points, so it's all good. Definitely keen to see how leaderboard now shapes it all up, because I think from here on out, we might be having some rather spicy storylines forming.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of week 3, we look at the standings. No surprise, Team Bliss to lead, 6 wins, 0 losses with a plus 36, 18 points secured. I mean, that is peak performance, Cthulhu. There's a reason that they're undefeated. Big Brain locking in second. VA actually taking third away from RDC tonight, given that they had 2 losses. Viking Army with 2 wins managed to just regain that position, pole position. Fury locking in 5th. Benchwarmers making their way up to 6th. And unfortunately, Triari bringing it up on the bottom at the moment. So unfortunate for some, but we're starting to see some interesting developments across the rest of the leaderboard, Cthulhu, towards the middle, maybe sort of 2nd, 3rd place. Yeah,
the middle of the leaderboard definitely does seem to be still rather volatile, because between Fury and Benchwarmers as well, it's a very interesting contention, despite the fact that round differential is quite a rather stark one, Proto. I mean, on the side of Fury, it's just only 1, whereas for Benchwarmers, they have to gain 17 rounds if they want to keep up, if they end up sticking around in that sort of tiebreaker between themselves and Fury. On the side of Radical Rebels and Viking Army, look, yeah, that is definitely one way to break up that sort of play. And now, in between Viking Army and BBE, now it's their time to, contest for this 2nd place, which, going into tonight, I definitely wouldn't have thought that we would get to see that sort of turnout, but yet here we are.
Yeah, look, there you go. It's been an interesting week of play for the Women's League, the Unstoppable Women's League. We go into number 4, Playday number 4, next week, same time, different faces. Well, one of the same faces, me and Spud will bring it to you then. But other than that, it's been an absolutely amazing evening. Blue Panda, we hope you get better. Have a good one. We'll see you next time on the Unstoppable Women's League. Have a good one. See you later.